Columbus's hits and positive hip hop, the VibeHD. You got John Blaze right here, but it's not about me today. First and foremost, it's always about God. But secondly, it's about this man in Columbus today to perform at the Newport Music Hall, Mr. Andy Mineo. Thank you for taking the time, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, no doubt. So, explain. I'm going to just jump right into this. Explain Do It For The Kids. What do you mean by that when you say that? Now, some people can take that, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, what's he doing for the kids? And really critique you with everything you do.
Get a life.
Oh.
The critiquers. Well, so really the story behind that record was I was in the studio working on Uncomfortable. And so I'd been working on that song was from like 2015, that record.
Oh wow.
And my man Ty Shane, who produced a majority of the Magic and Bird record we just dropped, he was in studio and he's been working with me since he was like 18. So he's been with me for like the last 6 years, just working on music and just kind of a dude. I found him on the internet. He posted like a beat, his beat page to like my Facebook, and I found him like that. And he was like 16 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, he was 16, not 18. And so, anyways, he's been with me for a long time, and I'm always pushing him to try to create certain things. And, I'm always trying to push a little bit against what's popular, what's out. And he just said, I remember he finally just voiced up. He was like, man, do this one for the kids, man. He's like, quit trying to be different and just trying to like, mix all these different genres and stuff. He's like, just do this trap record,
right? Super
trap. And so he's like, do it for the kids. When he said that, I was like, do it for the kids. And so I just laid that chorus down. I was like, do it for the kids, And that's why I start my verse like this right here for the kids. Yeah, I know what they want, but I'm gonna give them what they need. Yeah, I've been real from the jump. So that was like, yeah, if I do this record, like this is just for fun for the kids, like for the younger audience. Like I know what they want, but I'm gonna give them what they need too. And so, that's how that story came about, and it just was a fun record. And it never came out on Uncomfortable. Right. And when we were working on Magic and Bird, which was just meant to be a high energy mixtape for the sake of working out, having fun, you know what I'm saying? It fit perfectly. It was like, let's use that record we never finished, and that's how it came about.
What about Christmas? Since you don't have children, you have nieces, nephews, things like that?
I do. I got a gang of nieces and nephews now. And so, some of them are older. I got a nephew who's 21, and then I got a nephew who's 2. So, the range is
But what do you get them for
huge.
Christmas, since it's so different?
Man, Christmas is tough. It depends on where we spend in that year. You know what I'm saying? Like, so one year we're spending it with this part of the family or this part of the family. And so, around that time, we try to hook them up. But, it's weird, man. Like, I ask my nephews all the time, like, yo, what you want, man? Like, I'm trying to figure out what they need. And half the time they be like, I don't know. And I'm just like, for real? So you end up getting the gift card or something just that they can spend and do what they want when they get the chance. But it's tough picking gifts.
I got you.
This is like a really like time consuming thing. You gotta think about it. You gotta sit down. You gotta really plan out like what do they like, what would they love.
So Friends and Family Tour. Strangest thing that's happened thus far. You're in Columbus today, but what has happened so far on this tour? Or any tour?
Well, this tour has been pretty tame. It's the Friends and Family Tour. I got all my friends out, like me, Social Club, Words Played, and so we just having tons of fun. But something strange happened this morning. We was up to like 3 a.m. We was playing Super Smash Brothers, right? And all of a sudden, we're playing me, my man Simon, and Words Played. We're just like, let's get a game before we go to bed. So we playing. All of a sudden, boom! Like we're sideways.
Oh wow!
Like just falling, and stuff's falling everywhere. And John look over at me like wide-eyed, like, it's going down, And we're like, yo, what just happened? He's smoking a cigarette. He's like, we hit a deer, And I was like, what? We go outside and the whole front of the bus.
Oh, man.
It's actually on my Insta story, for the next 24 hours. By the time this come out, it might be gone. But, left a huge mark, So you imagine a 10,000-pound bus, 4 a.m., smacks a deer. That thing is donezo. So that's happened, but every tour something funny happens. Like last tour we were out with Gavi. And I brought him out on his first tour. And, when you sleep on these buses, there's like these little coffins that you essentially sleep in for your bunks. And so they're not big. They're like, about 2 feet above you, for space. Super compact. And we just remember we was all sleeping at like 4 or 5 in the morning or something. we just start hearing kicking and pounding.
Okay.
And so I fly out of bed and I start running to the back of but like where Gavi was, and I yank his curtain open. He's like, and I was like, yo, what's up? And he doesn't know where he's at. And I was like, yo, what's happening? He's like, am I in a coffin? Am I dead? And we were like, what? And so then he finally like comes to, and he's like, yo, I just had a dream I was in a coffin. I was buried alive. So I think he was turned against the wall, and like you push him up and on the side, and it's like a hard
Sorry, Gavi.
box. He thought he was dead.
You're exposed.
That joint was hilarious.
So we know what he's afraid of.
And it happened a second time on the same tour, like 3 weeks later, same thing. So, I mean, it's always funny stories on the tour bus, man.
No body odor, though. Right?
Shout out Gavi. I love him, man. He's a good dude.
Oh, very talented. Very talented. I love his record about water. Something in the water. It's one of my favorite records.
Something in the water. Hey, he got me singing.
Oh, yes, we do have him tea, because you having some throat congestion.
Yeah, I'm all congested, man.
Ginger root, that works really well.
That's the vibe?
Yeah, put some ginger root up in that. That is the vibe.
Man,
I like your plug. I like how you flipped it back to us. Thank you.
It.
With the day and age of where we're at, with society, Vegas, hurricanes, wildfires right now.
Yep.
Even the president.
Yep.
And the division in the country. Where do you fit into that in your music?
Well, I mean, I think music is a place for honesty, right? Music is a place that evokes emotion, relatability for people, makes people feel like they're not alone. It's commentary. You know, music is so many things. It's different things for different people.
Right.
And, you know, different artists approach topics and issues and different things, you know, however they feel creatively inspired to do so. And, you know, I'm no different. I think just depending on where I am, you know, like, for example, Magic and Bird, this record that we just dropped.
That's right.
There's political statements in there.
Right.
You know, we sneak stuff in, and, you know, we have fun with it. But that record, what its intention was, is to be a fun record that you enjoy. You know, you work out to, you play basketball to, you turn up to. While a record like Uncomfortable, you know, was much more meant to disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed.
Gotcha.
And so the content was a lot deeper. The content was a lot more politically charged. Like even in my record Uncomfortable, the opening line to the second verse are, my own people owned people, but they don't own that. They say racism dead because our president is black, but 2 terms in a White House, that don't mean jack if we still believe our president ain't affected by our past. You know, like, it's just different records. And then on the new record, it's like, I'm cursed with swag, there's nothing worse than that. Like, just funny stuff. So, you know, my music, depending on where I am and what I'm inspired by at the time, has different tones and attitudes, you know, and it depends on the project. But I think music, we put commentary on what's happening, obviously, if it's an honest reflection of what's happening in our world and in our culture at a time, which is what artists do. And then 2, man, a lot of times it can be an escape for people that are hurting. There's a lot of things going on in this world, and I think our music is filled with hope and goodness and purity. And I think that people are drawn to that, especially when music, hip-hop music in general, has oftentimes a negative connotation, or really glorifies some things that, you know, are shameful in a lot of ways. And so I think our music really serves to inspire people in a positive way. And every time we hang out with people, new people, never been hip to our music. Like last night, we hung out with some guys, Fake Education, and you know, the Instagram guy who educates people on sneakers and all that. He came to our show. He never heard of our music, and we got to hang out all night. You know, he came to the concert, and then afterwards we got to go to this like barcade area with him, play games and have drinks and chill. And he was just like, man, I never knew you guys existed. He's like, I've never met rappers like with morals. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, I'm surprised that they were having such deep and genuine and good conversation. And you know, we both left inspired from that, because you know, our music and what we're offering is something different than what the culture is generally offering right now. And you know, we take pride in that. We want to be that. We want to be a light in a dark place, and we do that through our music and through the way we live our life.
I know us at the VibeHD, we appreciate that too. That's why we
Sure.
spin your music. When I came from the secular, more mainstream side of hip hop to the VibeHD, that was what I was looking for, and I know that I found that place. And even being turned on to your music, I knew about Lecrae and a couple of other artists, and I was like, I watched Sway in the morning one time, and I was like, oh snap, okay, you were spitting on there. I was like, okay, and you crushed the 5 Fingers of Death.
Sure.
And I was like, oh my goodness, like, wow. And it just inspired me to just continue on the path, because I've always felt that kind of balance. And I'm sure the young people that listen to the VibeHD feel that way too. Like,
sure,
it's like we're just an alternative for what is out there, but still keeping it real. So I appreciate you for that. I really do. Do you ever feel like do you ever get that kind of backlash from any of the music that you do, where black people are like, oh, well, yeah, Andy's cool, but, you know, it's only because he's white? Do you feel that? Do you sense that?
Well, I mean, obviously, like white privilege is real. Like, white people have an advantage in America. Like, that's just plain fact. And if you don't see that or believe that, there's something wrong with you. You're not seeing the world properly, hands down. So white people do have advantages in America, just based off of our history, off of the way society's been built, systemic racism and systemic injustice. Like, this is like decades of stuff that have built the society. It's baked into our culture. So inevitably, whenever a white person speaks out about some of these things, it's gonna be backlash. I mean, no good deed goes unpunished ever, period.
True.
But I do see what people are saying, like, yo, other people have been saying this. I even got a text from my buddy who was like, yo, I see that, like, you've been talking about this since 2015, like 2014, uncomfortable. And he's like, but you're doing it from a godly perspective, and then, you know, Eminem's doing it and getting all the praise now. He's like, I think, you know, I just wanted to recognize, like, I appreciate you doing it too, speaking out about some of these things. I do think there's 2 things here. One is, like, those other rappers that you're naming just aren't as good as Eminem. So let's just start there.
Sorry, David Banner.
David Banner, I love you, but you can't hang with Eminem.
But yeah,
I think you can't hang with Eminem. He knows that. We all know that. Like, I don't know if any rapper would be like, nah, I got Eminem. So one, like, let's just be real about that. Eminem's voice and his lyrical prowess is unmatched. And 2, it is a sensitive space, but I think he's genuinely hip hop. And that's something I appreciate about Eminem, is there's a lot of white rappers out, and not all of them are hip hop. A lot of them have built off of the culture, don't give back to the culture, don't pay attention to issues. They just build their own thing off of hip hop. And I really appreciate him, you know, staying in the history of hip hop by speaking out and being a part of caring for people, you know, particularly minorities and particularly hip hop culture.
Gotcha. We're gonna lighten the mood though. Now we're gonna lighten the mood. I want to play a game with you. So it's this or that. So I'm gonna say 2 things. You just pick which one resonates well with you. Don't think about it. Just do it.
Okay.
For the vibe. Actually. Kendrick or Lecrae?
Both.
He already done broke the rules, man.
That's what rappers do.
You can't do it. You can't pick one.
I just did.
Okay, got you. Peanut butter M&Ms or Reese's Pieces? Only because we talked about Eminem, I guess.
M&M's.
M&M's?
There it
All
is.
right, cool. Hear My Heart or Uptown?
Oof.
Those are 2 tracks that Andy did. If you ain't listened to them, that's shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
Shame be upon you.
Especially Hear My Heart.
They're both dear to me, but I think Hear My Heart because of what it means to me. You know, my relationship to my sister, that song was for my deaf sister, Grace. And the video we put together for it, you know, just something very special. Very, very sentimental. It's just like, if you haven't seen it, go check it out on YouTube right now. Yeah.
Check it out 3-4 times. On the track Judo, which I love, you reference a topic from another one of your tracks from your album Heroes for Sale back in 2013. And that song was called Bitter, which I'm gonna be real with you, that's one of my favorite songs because it spoke to me. Like,
sure.
And when an artist gets personal, that's deep. You know what I'm saying? When you're that transparent on a record. But the line from Judah was, my dad, I still ain't called him back.
Yeah.
Have you called your dad back?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to him, you know, since.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
But in general, like, it was a connecting line. My dad still calls me and leaves crazy voicemails, you know.
So that was the actual voicemail on Bitter that he left you?
Yeah.
If you haven't checked Bitter out on YouTube.
And, you know, on even in the background of that song, you hear a little voicemail snipping. I snuck in. He's like, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
You know, and you know, yeah. But yeah, it was referencing that. But I don't call him back very, very often.
How does Andy Mineo deal with hurt or bitterness?
Man, that's a complex question.
That's why I saved it for last.
Yeah. I mean, hurt. I've done things like therapy, just like emotional healthiness stuff, try to understand myself. You know, it's an ongoing journey that I think most people either never get on the journey of understanding themselves. They just live life and don't. They exist, you know what I'm saying, but don't be really fully connected to who they are. And that's a tough thing because it's easier to just be a human doing instead of a human being. And so, yeah, I think my first response to hurt is usually to reject. Like if I feel rejected or hurt, I try to reject or hurt back harder, you know, and that's been like a propensity that I've seen in my life. But you know, with the help of God, man, my relationship growing as a spiritual person who's trying to understand myself, understand God, understand the way to live life in the most healthy way, in the fullest way, is to try to be honest about hurt. You know, when you're hurt, you want to close up, right? You don't want to be vulnerable. But I think healing happens when you can be honest about hurt. You know, letting the people that hurt you know that they hurt you.
Most of.
And most of the time you don't want to do that. You want to just retreat from them. But I've experienced healing in my life from letting people know that they've hurt me and being honest about my hurts. What was the second question about bitterness?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, bitterness is a really interesting thing because somebody told me one time it's like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. Like, bitterness really, when you hold on to it, only really ends up hurting you. Like the person that you're usually angry towards ends up most of the time being completely unaffected. Right. But it completely affects you and eats away at you. And so forgiveness, I feel like, is the remedy for bitterness. Because, you know, bitterness is kind of like, you did this to me, but I would never do that. You know, and that's why I'm bitter, which kind of puts us on like a moral high ground. You feel like I would never do that. I'm better than that.
Gotcha.
That really like distorts the way we're supposed to see each other, which is like all equal and also seeing us as all sinners and like all needing forgiveness. And I think when you start to do that, you start to realize like, man, I've sinned against God. I've committed crazy wrongs and I need to be forgiven. And that same forgiveness that I've experienced, I want to extend to other people. And that's kind of, you know, the way I've looked at bitterness over the years. And I'm not perfect at that, but that's what I've been trying to learn and implement, you know?